Welcome back, my friends. We're here once again with Pastor Bruce Dowell, and we've been talking a lot about praying and approaching the Lord and establishing a friendship with the Father and with Yeshua. And yes, there's a time to really establish the friendship and to draw near. But that's not always the case. If we take a look at the book of Esther, Esther had a problem and she wanted to come before the king. And it says in Esther chapter 4 verse 11, all the king's servants and all the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court who is not called, there is one law for him, that he be put to death, except those to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. You know, that should kind of set us an example. Esther was the king's wife. They had an intimate relationship. Yet approaching him that way, she needed to show proper respect.
When he was on the throne.
When he was on the throne.
Yeah.
Well, we also see in Leviticus 10:1, but Nadab and Avihu, the sons of Aaron, each took his censer, put fire in it, laid the incense on it, and offered unauthorized fire before Adonai, something he had not ordered them to do. At this, fire came forth from the presence of Adonai and consumed them, so that they died in the presence of Adonai. Now, Nadab and Avihu were supposed to be high priests.
Yeah.
They were chosen by God to be high priests.
They were in training.
They were in training. Yet they entered, and one of the things I read when I was studying is that the people think they entered the Holy of Holies. When they entered the Holy of Holies with something that he was not authorized, that's when they consumed him. And then the angels actually took him out to where they could be retrieved.
Right.
Are we approaching God in every instance as if he's our friend, as if he's common? Or are we showing him the proper respect when we need to? And there is times that we need to show him proper respect. When we enter into service, are we allowing the Ruach to come in and fill us? Or are we busy talking and communicating with one another? Is it more important to us that we entertain our friends or greet our friends? Or is this a time to come before the Lord and realize this is a time when he has asked us to come into his presence, when he has asked us, in fact, he's more than asked us, he's commanded us to come into his presence. Now, do we do this properly? Right now, the church is very lackadaisical, and fortunately, Father is very forgiving and
gracious,
understanding. He's very gracious. But look at the church in Acts. That wasn't necessarily so. They had a protocol to follow. Yes, they could come before the Lord at any time, but when they were in his presence, and when they spoke to him, first of all, whatever they told him had to be the truth. And we saw this,
Right. And
that they didn't. They died.
Yeah.
What are we doing? And are we showing the proper respect? We need to approach him in a manner worthy of becoming Malek HaOlam, the King of the universe. And we forget that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he's our Father and gracious and loving, but he's also the King of the universe. And we're in a world now that has forgotten protocol, especially in the United States.
Yeah.
Even if we went up to the President of the United States, would we follow protocol? Absolutely. If we went up to the Queen of England, how much more would that require a protocol?
Right.
Yet when we approach the King of the universe,
Right.
what do we show? You know, Shabbat is not and should not be just a social gathering for us.
Right.
It's coming before the King of the universe, a time to honor him and to show him respect that he deserves, to thank him and to appreciate him, to let him know that we're his willing servants.
Right.
But can we do that? And do we know how to do that? We need to know and respect the presence of the Lord. Yes, there's a time to be social and a time to come together and be ehad with your friends. But then there's also a time to come before the Lord and respect him.
Right.
And we need to do that. So, Pastor, how can we make a transition from a friend-on-friend church to a time to really show respect to who God is and to let people know that we need to enter into his presence?
Yeah, I think we need to, Ecclesiastes 3:1 says this, says, for everything there's a season and a time for every matter under heaven.
Right.
And I think in some ways it's harder for us than it was for the people in like biblical times. And the reason I say that is, here in Jerusalem you had the temple standing there.
Right.
With, it had the whole gauntlet of protocol. In fact, you couldn't even enter without protocol.
Exactly.
And once you were in, every step was dictated to you by protocol.
Correct.
As you entered into the presence of God. And yet, at the same time in Jerusalem, there was about 460 synagogues.
Right.
And the people didn't go up to the temple every Shabbat.
True.
More often than not, they went to their local synagogue.
Correct.
And the synagogue didn't have the protocol.
They did have a protocol.
A protocol, but not the same as the temple.
Very different.
Very different. And so we need to remember that, because in our, particularly in our Protestant tradition in America, we're mixing the two into one time and one location typically.
Right.
So what I mean by that is our weekly Shabbat, because it doesn't take place at home, and of course if your weekly Shabbat is taking place at home, now it's a whole nother protocol.
That's true.
So, but ours isn't at home. Ours is here congregationally.
Correct.
And so everyone comes in, and they come in whatever condition they happen to be in.
Right.
And their kids are all part of it.
Yes, they are.
From the toddlers to the teenagers.
Yep.
And you have visitors coming in as well.
True.
So you have a real mixed bag.
Yes, you do.
And what we're trying to do is balance that protocol between that family Shabbat and that Shabbat where we're trying to enter into the holy place.
Yes.
That's the dilemma we face, in my opinion.
Well, and it makes sense.
And that's tough. At least in Jerusalem in the days of the Master, I mean, when you went up to the temple, you were in a time and space when you knew the protocol.
Correct.
If you were going to,
the priests were right there to teach you. So.
Yeah, exactly. And if you were going to go to the White House tomorrow, you'd be on the internet right now getting the protocol down.
Correct.
Because tomorrow I'm going to the White House. So or the Queen of England or whatever.
Correct.
You would be getting the protocol down. So, but on a normal Shabbat, our protocol is such that it's fairly light on the protocol, heavier on the relational.
Right.
So this is what everyone's come to expect, and to really gauge their understanding by.
That's true.
Even in the Christian church we see this. I mean, the protocol changes in church on Easter morning.
Yes, it does.
I
Yes,
mean,
it
it's
does.
different.
Yeah, it is.
You know, you dress up more.
True.
There's a whole different feel.
Right.
It's a whole different meeting. It's a whole different gathering than a normal service time.
True.
And so I think as individuals, what we can do to protect ourselves is we have to gauge, okay, I'm in a fellowship mode, family mode,
Right.
but we're getting ready to go up and take communion or kiddush.
Right.
So now I want to, step up my protocol a little bit, because there's a protocol to do that. And most people, however, don't disengage from the one protocol and enter into the other on their own.
That's true. They don't.
And they don't even think about it, because they're in the middle of a conversation, and then they get up and they're walking up to the table and they're still in the same conversation.
Right.
I don't know how you get that across, really. I think it's incumbent on each individual to go before the Lord and say, okay, Lord, what would you have of me?
That's a good point.
What should my protocol be? Because to me, this is more serious than this.
Right.
This is me drawing closer to you than this is.
Correct.
They're both necessary components
And they are very much a part of it.
of our overall experience in the Lord. And He wants you to experience it all and to live your life in that containment.
Well, just like with Esther, there was a time for her to be a wife and a companion, and then there was a time for her to approach the king. It was with the same person.
Yeah, same person. And we have a protocol here. I mean, and it changed because our tradition was, when we first started the church, everyone just called me Bruce.
Right.
It's my name. And it was fine. But then we came, after a season, we came to a place where we realized that in church matters, I'm not just Bruce.
Right.
I'm the pastor.
Yeah.
And so as Bruce, I'm your friend. And as a friend, we have our opinions are equal.
Yeah.
When it comes to church business, our opinions are not equal.
Correct.
So I prayed and made a decision at church. I want people to call me Pastor Bruce.
Right.
And why is that? I'm not looking for titles. That's just not who I am.
Right.
But it helped the average person realize that because Kathleen and I are very high on the social scale.
Right.
We're very social people. And so people can get the wrong idea that we're just their best friends. And yes, we are friends. But if we have a disagreement over a church policy or something, or a scriptural understanding or so, it's no contest.
Correct. Exactly.
And that title helps to promote that. It's a protocol.
Right.
And then outside church, on the golf course or the shooting range or whatever, you can call me whatever you want to call me. I don't, you know what I mean? I respond to all of it.
Right.
It's fine. But I think we can do little things like that to help people realize that there is a degree of seriousness that we need to really consciously enter into.
Right, exactly.
Or we're not going there.
Yeah.
And And then we have to find out, well, what is that? And what works for us?
Right.
Because what works for us may not work at the church down the street.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? So even amongst the Messianic congregations, I mean, a lot of the congregations don't even have this issue because they take their kiddush on the way out as they're leaving. You know, it's set up in the foyer,
Right.
and they just go by and grab some juice and bread, and
Yeah, okay.
and they do whatever they do.
Right.
I don't know what they do. Every individual does something different, I'm sure.
Well,
Ours
okay.
isn't structured that way. Ours
Right.
is an official.
It's an official ceremony.
It's an official ceremony within
Right.
the confines of our looser meeting,
Right.
and so it presents a little more difficulty in that sense.
Yes.
But I think it's good because I think it teaches. And that's part of the reason I like it in there, is it teaches us that, hey, there is a different, there's multiple sides and facets to the Lord.
Very true.
And if you're going to touch on all of those facets, you've got to learn the protocol for each one of them.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Exactly. There's a time that he's your friend. There's a time that he's showing you complete love and caring. And there's
Yeah.
a time that he needs full respect and honor.
Yeah. We try to show the respect and honor. I try to show the respect and honor in addressing him always. I don't like it when people say dad, daddy, or papa.
Yeah.
That just doesn't. And I'm not condemning anybody that does that. I understand what they're saying and where they're coming from, but I don't do that.
Yeah, I don't either.
For me, he's father. Father is above dad. It's above papa.
Yeah.
It's father's an official.
It's a title.
It's a title.
Yeah.
It's a title and a. Yeah, it's a title. I mean, so I like to say father because for me that brings me back to a grounded position. That he's God. And I don't call him by his name, even if I knew what it was.
Right.
I'm not going to call him Yahweh or. That's just not me.
Right.
I never called my dad Army. His name was Armstrong. I never called him by.
Yeah.
I never called my parents by their first name.
Right. Yeah, I didn't either.
That's, to me, that just didn't set. And I'm not saying it's wrong. You know, that's between them and God. It doesn't matter to me. But I don't do it.
Right.
And that's the reason I don't do it, because it helps to keep me grounded to realize he's God and I'm me.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're friends, but our opinions are not of equal importance.
Yes.
And friends tend to think that they have that equal importance
Yeah.
in the relationship. And that's why so many believers can go into their prayer closet and they do all the talking. I mean, think about that for a minute. You go into your prayer closet, you're there with the King of the universe, and you do all the talking.
Yeah, really.
What's wrong with that picture?
Yeah.
That's just foolishness, because you've acquired time with the King of the universe, and you're going to use it all up on your voice. I mean, that's pretty sad.
Yeah.
When I go into the presence of the King, I keep my mouth shut, because I have nothing worthwhile to say. You know what I'm saying?
And there's nothing about you that he doesn't know already.
And that's all very sobering.
That is.
So I'm here to listen to you.
Yeah.
Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. To me, that's the proper protocol. And I like to do that. I Oh, I like to do that during the worship set. I mean, it really bothers me when I see people wandering around talking with people during worship, and I understand that that's the relational thing again. I know that. But for me, man, I like to, you know what, guys, you're on your own. Worship the Lord. Get in there.
Right.
Meet up with Him, because that's what I'm doing. That's what I like.
Yeah.
And I know there's a time for everything, but I think we have to know what your weakness is and know what your defaults are, and then kind of hedge against that a little bit.
Right.
By learning and practicing some of this protocol. And it's going to be different at different meetings. I mean, Yom Kippur protocol is a lot different than Purim.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it
or
is.
Hanukkah. Hanukkah is not particularly a holy time.
True.
You know, and it's not treated as such.
Yeah, that's true.
The Levitical Moedim are, to me, on a higher biblical scale than the non-Levitical 23
Right, right.
Moedim.
That's very true.
So you have to weigh all that out, and then you play the part where you figure out which is important and how to do it.
And it's not always easy either, because that's where you need to be able to listen to Him, understand what He's telling you, and He'll teach you.
Yeah, He will. I mean, and the Scripture says that you have no need of a teacher.
Right.
Well, that doesn't mean get rid of all the teachers.
No.
Because the Lord set up the fivefold ministry for a purpose. We need them until we're all unified.
Correct.
Which we're not there, so we still need them.
Right.
So what does He mean when He says you have no need of a teacher? What that means is He wants you to get before Him and learn what He wants you to do.
Right, exactly.
That's exactly what that means, in my opinion.
Well, true. And it actually goes back partly, in my mind, to what you've always said. You preach from the pulpit, but you always tell the people, go back, study for yourself,
Yeah.
and find out what God is really telling you. You know, because everything you said is not necessarily what's heard.
And it's not necessarily what pertains to every single person.
Correct. But when you go through the Word yourself,
Yeah.
then it will be revealed to you.
All I hope to do on a message is really spark one or two things in each individual.
Exactly.
One or two things that, because most of what I say, you're preaching to the choir every week, let's face it. You know?
To some degree, yes.
So what I want to do is I want to challenge you to say, oh, you know what, I never kind of looked at it from that perspective.
Right.
Let me check that out, because that could be important for me.
Yeah.
If I can do that, then I've preached or taught a successful message.
Right.
So the more people that go home and go, you know what, I need to check this out for me.
Right, exactly.
Not to check out and make sure I'm right or wrong.
No.
You know, but to check out, oh, okay, how can I employ that in my life?
Right, exactly. Plus, the Word is living. So whatever is said can have a different meaning to different people.
And it does.
And needs to.
And just because I do something this way doesn't mean you have to do it that way.
Correct.
What we're talking about is the essence of it.
Exactly.
The principle
Exactly.
is good for both of us. You're going to approach it from one angle. I'm going to approach it from a different angle. God's okay with that.
Yeah.
In fact, that's how He made us.
Correct. That goes back to our previous study.
Yeah.
Everybody's different for a reason.
Everyone's different. And we get into trouble when I insist you do it my way.
Don't we all?
And that's problematic in the church.
Yeah, it is.
It's really a lack of understanding.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm always harping on that. There's not one size fits all,
That's true.
except for one issue: Yeshua and Him crucified.
Yeah.
Everything else, God wants you. He wants a personal. He wants you to personalize it,
Correct. And that's why he made his word living.
and so you can have 6 billion variations.
Yes. And that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Well, my friends, that's all the time we have for today. But please join us again next time. And if you want to get Pastor Bruce's books, please go to PastorBruceDowell.com or to Amazon.com. And if you want to see our videos, go to www.shilomessianic.com. And until next time, shalom.
Shalom.